My wife cheated on me with our lawyer, she lied about her affair, then suddenly claimed I owe her $250, $0 in fake investments when I found out, and now she's trying to take everything, including our house and our savings, in a shady legal battle I don't understand. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, if someone had told me a year ago that my wife, Lisa, would cheat on me with our lawyer and then try to swindle me out of everything we had, I'd have laughed in their face. But here I am, sitting in a quiet, empty house, trying to piece together how everything went so wrong. And the craziest part, it all started with a gut feeling I ignored for too long. Lisa has always been the kind of woman who can switch from sweet to bitchy in seconds. At first, I thought her mood swings were stress or maybe just her trying to control everything around her, her job, our social life, even me. But last summer I started noticing little things. She was more secretive with her phone, would hide it when I entered the room, delete texts, and she suddenly became obsessed with our financials, acting like she was doing some secret big project. She'd always been pretty good at hiding her lies, but I was catching on. I just didn't want to admit it yet. Then came the weirdest part. I noticed small discrepancies in our bank statements. Charges I didn't recognize, some suspicious payments labeled as consulting fees or legal expenses, which was odd because we didn't have any ongoing legal issues at the time. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was investing or paying for some class or seminar she hadn't told me about. But I knew better. Something was off. One night I came home earlier than expected from work. I usually work late, so it wasn't unusual, but something told me to check her phone. I didn't want to be that guy, but I was curious. I snuck a quick glance while she was in the kitchen. That's when I saw the messages. It was a chat with someone named Jake, and the tone was intimate, flirty, suggestive, and downright dirty. They talked about meeting up, about her lying about her business trip, about her doing things she'd never done before. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I'd married, was cheating on me with our lawyer, this sleazeball named Mark. I knew Mark from the firm. He's the kind of guy who looks like he's always trying to sell you something, even when he's just talking about your legal case. And now I found out he was screwing my wife. It was like a punch to the face, and I felt a mixture of rage, betrayal, and confusion. I confronted her the next morning. I waited until she was drinking her coffee, trying to keep my voice steady but seething underneath. I told her I knew about the messages, about the affair. Her face twisted into that familiar bitchy smirk, like she was proud of her ability to lie and manipulate. She denied everything at first, said I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. But I had the screenshots. I threw my phone on the table and told her I had proof. Her reaction was pure contempt. She looked at me like I was an idiot for not knowing sooner. "You're overreacting," she snapped, rolling her eyes. "It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. You're so insecure. Besides, I've been working on some big investments. You wouldn't understand." I asked her how she could cheat on me and then lie about it, how she could be so cold and manipulative. She just shrugged and said, "Maybe I'm bored. Maybe I deserve better than you. Anyway, I don't owe you an explanation." That was the moment I realized the depth of her betrayal. Not just the affair, but her complete disregard for me, for our marriage. I felt a crushing weight of sadness and anger. I'd spent years building a life with her, trusting her with everything, including our money. And now she was throwing it all away, lying, cheating, and trying to manipulate me into thinking I was the problem. I knew I had to do something, but I had no idea what. All I knew was that my world had turned upside down, and I was just trying to keep my head above water. After that morning, everything changed. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and my mind kept circling back to the betrayal. Lisa was staying out late, making up excuses about business meetings or working late at the office, but I knew better. I'd seen the messages, the texts, the way she looked at Mark with that sneer of hers. She thought she was untouchable, that I wouldn't find out or wouldn't do anything about it. Well, I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I started digging into our financials more carefully. I'd always been pretty good with money, but she had hidden so much from me that I'd missed most of it. That's when I found it, these mysterious transfers to an account she'd set up under a fake name. I managed to trace it back to a shell company she'd created, and the more I looked, the more I realized she'd been planning this for months. She was draining our savings, hiding money, probably planning to run away with Mark or at least leave me with nothing. I decided I needed proof, hard evidence, before I did anything drastic. I hired a private investigator, someone I found through a friend of a friend who owed me a favor. The guy was sharp, and within days he came back with footage, Lisa and Mark meeting in a hotel, sneaking out late at night, clearly more than just lawyer-client relationship. They'd been lying to my face all along. They'd been screwing around, probably for months. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I had to stay calm. I couldn't let her see how much she'd broken me. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act. She played the victim, the betrayed wife, crying about how I was ruining everything, claiming I was paranoid and jealous. She even had the nerve to accuse me of controlling behavior, which was rich coming from her, considering she'd been sneaking around behind my back. She told everyone I was abusing her emotionally, that I was the problem. That was her game: lie, manipulate, gaslight. She knew how to turn things around and make herself look like the victim. One day I confronted her again face to face. I told her I had enough, that I knew about the affair, about the money she'd stolen, about her lies. I told her I was done playing her game. She just looked at me with that bitchy smirk, and then she said something I'll never forget. "You're just mad because I don't want to be with a loser like you anymore. I deserve better, and I'm taking everything. Our house, the money, everything. You're nothing without me." That's when I realized she was serious. She wasn't going to stop, not until she took everything I had built. I decided I had to fight back. I couldn't let her walk away with everything. Our house, our savings, everything we'd worked for. I hired a lawyer, a tough guy named Steve who specialized in divorce and financial fraud. From the start, I knew she was trying to pull some shady legal tricks, faking investments, claiming I owed her hundreds of thousands, and trying to take full control of our assets. I found out she'd even lied about her own income, inflated her expenses, and secretly transferred money into her accounts. The legal battle was intense. She brought in her own lawyer, a sleazy guy who tried to intimidate me with bullshit legal jargon and false accusations. Lisa was throwing everything she could at me, accusing me of abuse, claiming I was a terrible husband, and insisting I was the reason she cheated. All lies. Meanwhile, she was secretly planning her escape route, trying to freeze our accounts and move the house into her name before I could do anything. I was furious, but I knew I had to stay composed. If I lost my temper, I'd ruin everything. I spent sleepless nights poring over documents, digging into her financial lies, and gathering evidence to prove she was the one cheating, stealing, and trying to screw me over. It felt like a war, and every day I felt more betrayed, more desperate. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity, like I was finally seeing her true face. The woman I thought I knew was a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator, and I was determined to fight for what was mine, no matter how dirty she played. As I sat across from her in the courtroom, watching her sneer and lie under oath, I realized this was just the beginning. She thought she could take everything from me, that her lies and schemes would win in the end. But I wasn't going to let that happen, not without a fight. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I was also learning who she really was, and I was ready to do whatever it took to come out on top. The courtroom battles were a nightmare. Lisa was relentless, spinning her web of lies with that bitchy, condescending attitude she always had. She claimed I was an absent husband, that I neglected her emotionally, that I was somehow the reason she cheated with Mark. She even had the nerve to say I was abusive, something I'd never laid a hand on her. But she knew how to twist words, how to make herself look innocent while throwing dirt at me. Her lawyer, that slimy guy I mentioned, played right into her hands, pushing false claims and trying to scare the judge into rushing decisions. I remember sitting there, watching her testify with that smug little smile, acting like she was the victim. Meanwhile, I had stacks of evidence, screenshots, bank statements, the private investigator's footage, all pointing straight to her lies and infidelity. I couldn't believe how far she was willing to go, how she kept spinning her stories, trying to manipulate the court and everyone around her. It was sickening. The most infuriating part was how she kept insisting I owed her $250, $0 in fake investments. She said she had proof, fake documents, forged signatures, all that bullshit. I knew she was lying because I'd checked those investments myself, and they didn't exist. She was trying to pull some shady legal stunt, probably planning to claim I'd stolen money or that I was some sort of financial fraud. But I'd been smart enough to keep track of everything. I had the real bank statements, the original investment documents, and the receipts. I presented all of that in court, showing she was lying through her teeth. Throughout this process, I felt like I was losing my mind. One day, I'd be angry, ready to tear her apart. The next, I'd be devastated, wondering how I was so blind for so long. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she betray me like that, cheat with some sleazeball lawyer, and then lie about everything? It was like watching my entire life unravel, piece by piece. I often found myself sitting in the courtroom, staring at her bitchy face, feeling a mix of rage and heartbreak. It was a roller coaster I couldn't get off. Meanwhile, she kept pushing her narrative, saying I was a terrible husband, that I was emotionally abusive, that I didn't care about her. She even claimed she was the victim, that I was trying to ruin her reputation. I couldn't believe how shameless she was. It was all part of her game to turn everyone against me. She'd even accuse me of being a deadbeat dad, which was laughable because I'd always been there for our kids. But she knew how to weaponize her tears, her bitchy attitude, and her fake sob stories to make herself look innocent. One day, she pulled a stunt I didn't see coming. She filed for a temporary restraining order, claiming I was a threat to her safety. The court granted it, and suddenly I was barred from seeing her or the kids. That was the lowest point. I felt helpless, angry, and betrayed all at once. I knew she was just trying to manipulate the system, but it hit me hard. I was cut off from my family, unable to reach out, all because she wanted to control everything. At the same time, she started moving things around, transferring money, trying to put the house into her name without my knowledge. I caught wind of it through my lawyer, and that's when I realized she was planning a full-blown escape. She wanted the house, the savings, everything. She thought her lies and her charm would get her everything she wanted, but I wasn't going to let her. I had enough evidence now to fight her for every penny, and I was determined to expose her for the liar and cheat she really was. The legal battle dragged on for months. Every hearing revealed more of her lies, more of her schemes. I kept feeling more betrayed, more furious, but I also started to see through her manipulations. I saw her bitchiness for what it was, her way of trying to stay in control to keep me from fighting back. I knew I had a long fight ahead, but I was ready. I'd never trusted her again, and I knew I'd never forgive her. But I also knew this. I would get justice, even if it meant tearing her world apart. By now, I was deep in the fight of my life. Every day felt like I was walking through a minefield, waiting for her next move. She was relentless, lying, cheating, trying to manipulate the legal system to her advantage. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. I couldn't believe I had been blind for so long, trusting her, believing her lies. The woman I married, the one I thought loved me, was nothing but a manipulative bitch who was willing to destroy everything we built just to get her way. One of the biggest blows came when I discovered she'd secretly transferred a huge chunk of our savings into her own accounts, under fake names, trying to hide her assets. I found bank statements she thought I'd never see, showing deposits made right after she claimed she had no money left. It was clear she was planning to run, to disappear with Mark, or at least to leave me with nothing. That's when I decided enough was enough. I had to take control before she drained us dry. I hired a forensic accountant to go through every financial detail. The guy was a beast. He uncovered a web of shell companies, fake invoices, and transfers that made my head spin. Lisa had been laundering money, hiding assets, and lying about her income for months. It was like she was trying to set herself up for a clean escape. I realized she wasn't just cheating on me. She was trying to steal what was rightfully mine. That was the point I knew I had to fight back hard. Meanwhile, she kept up her bitchy attitude. She'd throw tantrums, scream at me, call me names, and accuse me of being the worst husband ever. She told the court I was emotionally abusive and tried to paint herself as the innocent victim. Her lawyer, that slimy Mark, played right into her hands, spinning lies about my supposed abuse and neglect. She even claimed I was violent, something that couldn't be further from the truth. I was just furious. Furious at her, furious at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. One night, I caught her in the act of trying to change the house title. I was at the bank when I saw the transfer request pop up on my phone. I rushed home and found her in a panic, trying to forge documents. That was the final straw. I confronted her right there, and she looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to deny everything. But I had proof, screenshots, bank records, witnesses. I told her she was done, that I wasn't going to let her steal our house, our life, everything we had. I filed for full custody of the kids, knowing she'd try to fight me on that too. She wanted to turn the kids against me, just like she wanted to take everything else. But I had the evidence of her lies, her affair, her shady financial dealings. I knew I could prove she wasn't fit to be a mother with her manipulative, bitchy attitude and her reckless behavior. It was a war, and I was ready to fight for my kids, for my dignity, and for what was left of my life. The legal process was brutal. She hired her own team of lawyers, and the court proceedings dragged on for months. Every hearing was a new battle, her trying to twist things, me presenting more proof of her schemes. I felt exhausted, drained, but I also felt determined. I wasn't going to let her walk away with my house, my money, or my kids. I knew she was scheming behind the scenes, trying to manipulate the system, but I was one step ahead. Looking back, I realized how much I underestimated her. How her bitchy smirk, her lies, her constant manipulations were all part of a bigger plan to control everything. She thought she could cheat and lie her way out of this, but I had enough evidence now. I was learning who she really was, just a selfish, manipulative bitch willing to destroy everything for her own benefit. And I was done being the victim. I was ready to fight for what's mine, no matter how dirty she played it. This was just the beginning of the end. I could feel it. The courtroom sessions kept getting uglier. Lisa's lawyer, that Mark guy, kept trying to throw up distractions, false accusations, and even some wild claims about my mental health. She was desperate, I could tell. Her entire game was to paint herself as the victim and me as the villain, but I had enough concrete evidence now to blow her lies out of the water. Still, it was exhausting having to sit there, listen to her bitchy voice, and watch her smirk when she thought she was winning. One of the worst moments was when she brought up the fake investments again, claiming I owed her $500,000, that I'd been hiding money from her, that I was some kind of financial fraud. She even produced forged documents that she claimed proved her case. I knew they were fake because I had the real originals, but seeing her lie so blatantly made my blood boil. I had to stay calm, but inside I was furious. I wanted to tear her apart right then and there. I had my lawyer, Steve, present all the real evidence, bank statements, the private investigator's footage, the forensic accountant's reports. We showed how she'd been lying about her income, hiding assets, and transferring money into fake accounts. I even had witnesses who could testify about her shady dealings. When the judge saw all this, it was clear she was trying to pull a fast one, but her lies couldn't stand up to the truth. Still, I knew she'd keep trying. Meanwhile, Lisa's bitchiness was on full display. She'd roll her eyes when I testified, make snide comments under her breath, and give her famous smirk whenever she thought she was winning. She even accused me of being emotionally abusive, claiming I was manipulative and controlling. That one made me laugh. If only she knew how much I'd been betrayed, how much she'd lied and cheated. She played the victim so well, but I saw through her act now. Then came the day I feared most. She filed for a temporary restraining order, claiming I was a threat to her safety. I was stunned. I'd never raised a hand to her, but she spun her web of lies, and somehow the court bought it. Suddenly, I was barred from seeing her or the kids. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That was the lowest point yet. I was cut off, helpless and furious. All I wanted was to protect my family and stop her from destroying everything. She also made a move to push me out of the house, trying to have the court transfer ownership into her name without my knowledge. I caught wind of it through my lawyer, and I immediately filed a motion to contest it. I had proof she was trying to do this secretly, forging signatures and fabricating documents. I couldn't believe how far she was willing to go. This wasn't just about cheating, she was trying to steal my home, my future. At one point, I was so overwhelmed I almost gave up. I'd been betrayed on every level by her, by Mark, by the legal system that seemed to favor her at times. But deep down, I knew I couldn't let her win. I had to keep fighting for my sanity, for my kids, for what was right. Every day I woke up, I reminded myself that this was a war, and I had to stay strong. I had to expose her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy liar who was trying to destroy everything I loved. As the months dragged on, I saw her true colors more clearly. Her bitchiness, her lies, her greed, they all came out in court. She thought she could outsmart me, but I was collecting everything I needed to make her pay. I wasn't just fighting for money or the house. I was fighting to protect my dignity and my future. And I was learning the hard way how deep her betrayal ran. She's a master manipulator, but I was starting to see through her bullshit. I wasn't about to let her walk away with everything. She'd have to go through me first. By the time the final court dates rolled around, I felt like I'd been through hell and back. Every piece of evidence I had gathered was laid out, proof of her affair, her financial lies, her attempts to steal the house, and her manipulative tactics. I watched her sit there with that bitchy smirk, trying to act like the innocent victim, but I knew better now. I knew her tricks, her lies, her greed. The court saw through her, and I could tell she was getting desperate. The judge finally made a ruling that I could only describe as a small victory, but at least it was something. She was ordered to return the stolen money, the house would stay in my name, and she was denied full custody, at least for now. I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. After everything, I had proven her lies, and I had fought for my family's future. The weight of betrayal hadn't fully lifted, but I knew I had taken the first step toward rebuilding my life. Looking back, I realize how much I learned from all this chaos. Trust is fragile, something I took for granted until it was shattered. I learned that some people are willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate just to get what they want, even if it means destroying the people they're supposed to love. Lisa was that kind of person, a manipulative, bitchy liar who thought she could get away with anything. But I also learned how to stand up for myself, how to fight for what's right, and how to see the truth through all the bullshit. Now I'm slowly rebuilding. The house is still ours, the kids are safe, and I'm working on healing from the betrayal. It's not easy, some days are worse than others, but I know I'll be okay. I've realized that I don't need someone like Lisa in my life, someone who lies, cheats, and manipulates. I deserve better. I've learned to trust myself again, to listen to my gut, and to be cautious about who I let into my world. If there's one thing I want others to take from this, it's this: never ignore the signs. If your gut tells you something's wrong, don't brush it off. Trust is earned, not given freely. And if you're betrayed, don't be afraid to fight back, whether it's legally, emotionally, or just for your own peace of mind. People like Lisa don't change. They only get worse if you let them. Protect yourself, stand your ground, and never let anyone take away your dignity. This whole experience has been a brutal lesson in human nature, but it's also made me stronger. I may have lost a lot, but I've gained clarity. I see the world more clearly now. People's true colors come out when they think no one's watching. And I've learned that the best revenge is living well. I'm moving forward, leaving her behind, and building a new life, one where honesty, integrity, and respect matter. Because in the end, that's all anyone really needs.